Flesh and Blood is an incredible game, mechanically speaking. If you're watching this video, it's likely we already agree on that. Out of the many TCGs I've tried so far in my 19 years of life, it has quickly become my favorite due to its skill-intensive gameplay, unique hero identities, and something that is a bit easier to overlook: flavor. As I've looked past the haze of bloodlust and strategic contemplation that typically numbs me to immersion in the world of Wraith as I play, and actually taken the time to look through the art and examine the effects of the cards in my decks, I've grown to notice just how detailed and intricately designed many of the cards in this game are. Join me on this medium-depth dive into the flavor of Flesh and Blood. As I mentioned previously, a big part of why I love Flesh and Blood is how unique every class and hero feels from the others. The creators have gone far deeper than the simple stats and aesthetics of your quintessential RPG. Through their hero abilities and card pools, as well as the art styles of their cards, Flesh and Blood carefully creates a play experience that truly puts you in the shoes, or feet, of your hero. I'll go through a few examples. Brutes embody brutality. They throw caution to the wind, rampaging through unplanned combinations of wild blows that stagger opponents with their unpredictable, explosive nature. They're not scared to hurt themselves if it hurts the opponent more. Sometimes they'll stumble completely, done in by their lacking sense of strategy. Other times, they'll unknowingly strike at every weak point and utterly crush their enemy with a furious wave of violence. And sometimes, their roars of fury and massive physiques alone render their opponents frozen in fear, defenseless before they've even defended. Their card art often captures fierce movements, depicts huge, imposing barbarians, and revels in brutality. I don't think there's a single brute card that I could visually describe as calm. Rangers load their arrows, lace them with poisons, and shoot them with deadly precision that is often too sharp to block. They try to keep their distance, carefully observing their options while trying to maintain a position where their weaker blocking capabilities and armor won't spell their demise. Or, if you're Riptide, setting traps for the opponent's hasty boots to stumble into. The bow and arrow, or soon a harpoon cannon, their weapons of choice, are their pride and joy, and the main focus of their hero identities. This is shown in how most Ranger cards show not the target, not the shooter, but the arrow itself, carefully chosen for the right moment. And when it's not an arrow, it's the vast scenery that is being scouted, or other displays of tacticianship. Assassins hide in the shadows, blocking out offense, and wait for the perfect moment to strike. A seemingly harmless attack will turn deadly faster than you can draw another breath, and soon you'll be nothing more than a silver coin in their pouch. They surgically pick their opponents to pieces, ripping away their strongest abilities, and sometimes even turning them on their users. The intricate ways they disarm, infect, and slaughter their foes are what fuels their sadistic passion. This is noticeable in their card art, where oftentimes the assassin's victim is in center stage, while the perpetrator is nothing more than a shadow on the wall, a dark figure in the background, or a hand holding a dagger. They hide in the darkness and let their killings, their pieces of art, speak for them. Rune blades channel forces from beyond the natural world to empower themselves and obliterate their enemies. Playing a rune blade is like conducting a ritual, each hero requiring a slightly different one. Some weave through precise combinations of steel and magic. Others chant runic incantations to access the typically forbidden banished zone. And my favorite, Florian, patiently fills the soils with nutrients before sowing the seeds of the opponent's dismay. Their unsettling yet enticing nature is amplified by their horrific card art. Faces twisted into eerie grimaces, bodies contorted and shriveled in dark rituals. What once may have been human, now a corrupted husk. I could go on and on about how I see the identity of each class represented in their playstyle and aesthetic, but I think I've gotten the point across by now. Something I also thought to quickly mention is how the gameplay dynamics between different classes are sometimes portrayed in card art in truly awesome and entertaining ways. Guardians are often shown imposing their dominant strength over the physically weaker ninjas, often paired with effects that are debilitating to their speedy game plan. Thaw is a cool card made specifically to foster the thematic and mechanical conflict between the draconic and ice heroes. And of course, some shadow cards are specifically designed to counter the light heroes they're thematically opposed to, slaying their angels and eating their souls. Now, let's move on from the broad collectives that form the flavor of classes to the specific, isolated flavor of singular cards. An important factor that helps me feel immersed in card games is when the effects of different cards are there for a reason. It gives life to the game. Even a small detail like a baby dinosaur summoning its angry mother when it's hurt can add so much to the feeling that you're actually bringing forth living creatures and casting actual spells. An example of this element missing completely is a lot of modern Yu-Gi-Oh cards, where this being, whatever it's supposed to be, can do this common in-game effect and this common in-game effect because why not? Looking at this card's art and reading the name tells me nothing about what it might do. Flesh and Blood, on the other hand, does this incredibly well. I'll just list some of my favorite examples. An attack that crushes the enemy's spine. Well, it's logical to assume that it's going to weaken them in some way. They won't be running very fast after that. Surgical Extraction lets you carefully extract your opponent's best card from their hand if it hits. Plow Under plows the arsenal under the deck, like the plants are dragging the remains of the unfortunate warrior into the ground in the art. Pack Call functions a lot like the brute calling out for their packmates with a fierce bellow, as it helps you make sure one of your trusty 6-powered attacks is right there waiting for your next turn. I feel like the direction of focusing on singular attacks and other actions your hero can perform, rather than different creatures, makes it a bit easier to create cards with abilities that make sense in context. Usually when an attack has higher or lower power in Fab, it's reflected by the art showing either a huge blow or a quicker little strike. There's of course also many examples of creature cards from other games where the power level is clearly noticeable just from the size and appearance of the monster. However, when the creature is a human or humanoid, the power level seems pretty random. This intimidating looking human is a 1/1. While this intimidating looking human is a 4/4. Of course, these are all generalizations, and pretty insignificant details in the grand scheme of things. I don't lose sleep over stuff like this. But hey, my inner philosophy student tells me to overanalyze everything. That's what you came to watch for anyway, I hope. Finally, let's talk a little bit about how the lore of Flesh and Blood is incorporated into its cards. Now, I'm no expert on Flesh and Blood lore. I've watched some nice videos about it from other content creators and read through the story articles of the most recent sets, but I'm still pretty new to the world of Wraith. What I can say though is that some cards connect to the lore in an awesome way. Regicide shows Arachne's assassination of the Emperor of Volcor, which the most recent set, The Hunted, follows up on. Morlock Hill shows the death of Minerva Themis, Dorinthia's mentor, in a battle between Solana and the Shadow. Felling of the Crown depicts the death of the Queen of the Rosetta, and Seeds of Tomorrow portrays the seed that she passed on, which Verdance and Florian eventually planted together, breaking the cycle of endless summer. These are just a few examples that came to mind. If you have any others, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will read all of them with intrigue. And that concludes this video. I'm quite busy nowadays with all my hobbies and university, but I'm hoping to make more videos about Flesh and Blood and my other interests in the near future. I was kinda inspired to actually do this by another new creator in TNTCG with Liv. Her videos are awesome, I recommend you check them out. I'm planning to make storytime videos about the tournaments I have gone to and will be going to in the summer. For example, I'm flying to Pro Tour Singapore, which is by far the biggest Flesh and Blood event I've ever gone to. Quite a wild story to tell soon about how I ended up winning a Pro Quest and qualifying against all odds. But yeah, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you want to see more. Fare thee well.